Hey, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American film critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We got a lot to discuss and debate. Last week, we didn't even get it all in. We were talking so much, so we're gonna pick up on some things. I'd like to welcome my boy Shawn Edwards to the table. Shawn, I know you working on some stuff. You keep see this is the thing that bothers me about you. You'll tell me like, "Hey, Reg, I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes." What you working on, dude?
Working on journalistic accuracy. I hate when mainstream outlets try to rewrite Black history. So need to have the editor of IndieWire give me a phone call so I can give him the accurate, correct history of the formation of the African American Film Critics Association, because the insensitivity of writing incorrect stories on the creation of the organizations finally got me a little upset. But we'll drop the correct narrative. That organization doesn't exist if I wasn't born. In the story.
All right, there we go. We got that from Shawn. Hey, I got Emmanuel is here. I don't even believe that he decided.
And oh, by the way, yeah, I got all the original emails. What do they call that these days? The receipts.
You got the receipts.
So got the original emails. So and the original napkin. So I need Eric Kahn to give me a call ASAP.
Hey, you heard
IndieWire sucks.
Wow.
Ooh, you heard that. You heard that.
I don't work for them and they ain't never paid me. IndieWire sucks. It's horrible. We would call out any other organization that tried to rewrite Black history. We're not going to let IndieWire slide, and I'm not going to do it.
As you shouldn't.
Right.
I shouldn't.
Keep them honest.
Get it correct. All you got to do is Google, Wikipedia, all the information's there. Africa was co-founded IndieWire. Thank you.
Co-founded. You heard it here, you guys. You haven't heard the last of that, obviously.
No, not at all.
I want to welcome my boy from Chicago. See, this is what I like, is that now the Chicago people.
Chi-town in the house.
Emmanuel, welcome, man.
Thank you for having me again. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, man, tell us where people can find your stuff and hook up with you.
Yeah, E-Man's movie reviews on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's at E-Man's Reviews. Can't miss it. Google it. You'll find me.
He's the best in the biz, people. Y'all better watch his stuff.
Yo, he's the best in the biz, man.
I'm trying.
He's the best in the recap game. I'm a fan.
I appreciate you.
Game recognized game. He's the best in the biz, y'all. Check him out. And he got the dopest t-shirts. He got the merch. He got the merch. He has the merch.
If I don't rep me, who will?
He got the merch, but it's dope though. He got the merch.
Now you make me mad, dude.
He got the merch, baby.
We gonna have to talk. We gonna have to call me.
No, but his recap game is strong though. No, bro.
We gonna have to do some of that recap game.
The recap game
I'm
is
glad
strong.
you said that. And then, of course, I got my friend. Well, she might not be my friend based on some past instances, but we used to be friends. But I've been messing up. So all I can say is I'd like to welcome my friend Kathia Woods to the round table. Kathia with cupofsoulshow.com. Kathia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's all good. You know, I have figured out that I got to private message you and be like, you go, because clearly you are not reading the comments.
In other words, Reg needs some hand holding.
You know,
he needs the special treatment.
So, in your favor, though, excuse me, there are a couple people that I picked to lead off our discussion. You're one of them because you usually kick us off in a strong way. You know, you don't start us off wah, wah, wah. I'm like, oh, Jesus, here we go. But you usually are like ready to go and prepared, and you get the talent loose, which is really what we want. We don't want them to feel like it's a straitjacket. We want them to feel like they're with family. And because they get enough questions asked about Black Lives Matter, politics, pollution, all that other stuff ain't got nothing to do with the time of day. So you kind of like make them laugh, and especially if they're from Chicago, like Delroy Lindo, we had a whole conversation with you. Is it authentic? Is it real? You know, so So that's
So-
always good. So that is your strength.
Phew. All right, I guess I'm back on, you guys. So look, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and because I'm so glad that Shawn said your recap game is good. So I'm gonna ask you, E, to bring in and tell us what this movie Godzilla versus Kong is about, and what your thoughts are about this.
I mean, look, this is probably the most straight up old school, coming into the new school version of the classic monster genre. You got Godzilla getting agitated for some reason. We don't know why. Doesn't really matter. And King Kong is just trying to go home. But of course, they got to cross paths, and it's a WWE matchup. These monsters are coming together. They about to throw them hands or them paws or them claws, whatever you want to call it. And it's all that you going in for. Look, I had a good time with this movie. It was everything I expected it to be. It didn't make as many mistakes as the previous, monster movies did with all the human drama and stuff. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody coming for that. Didn't come to see people with their family drama and the divorce and I don't care. I want to see monsters fight. I want to see them flying off the top rope. I want to see them body slamming and burning stuff up. And that's what we got. That's what this movie is. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be, anything super sophisticated. I had a great time with it, and it was awesome.
See, I disagree with you, E. Is that I do. So this is where I disagree. Is that the story stuff that they tried to throw around it was garbage.
That's
that
okay.
It was all
That's okay.
mumble. No, I'm just saying they did try to throw some story around it, and it was all mumble jumble to me. It's like, what y'all do? Just let them fight. Just let them fight. Stop all this other stuff like, oh, we got to find this and we need to find that and then we connect this. And no, let them fight. Just be like, and now, are you ready to rumble? That's all I wanted to see. But
They did that.
That's what you got.
They did that.
You had 3 rounds of that.
Yeah, I'm just crazy. I didn't have a stop. I didn't have a stopwatch when I was watching, but it was a lot of action. I mean, the humans, man, they were completely irrelevant in it. No, this, like E said, this movie was not afraid to admit exactly what it is. And you got exactly what it needed to be. I remember one time, it was back in the day when the original remake of the Hulk came out. I was like, man, the filmmakers missed it. All you need is Hulk get mad, Hulk turn green, Hulk beat people up, copy, paste, and do it again. This is exactly what this movie did. Like it was, you got to have a little bit in between. I don't care what like you called it, mumbo jumbo is, because if we're not paying attention to it anyway, it was just all we were waiting for were the fight scenes. They delivered the fight scenes. I know a lot of times people do reviews. They're like, the special effects were incredible. Well, that's pretty easy today because everybody's got sophisticated computer technology, but the special effects were dope. And the type of moves Kong was doing and the type of moves Godzilla was doing, street corner brawling, pimp slapping each other. I mean, shit, that's what it is. It was fun, man.
Kathia,
It's fun.
I mean, I don't know what the plot was, and I don't care. To be honest with you. I mean, the last one, I was like, we don't need 16 monsters. I'm confused. Who is who? There was so much going on, and then they try to be so scientifically deep. I was like, nobody cares. This is a National Geographic, But I like this movie because it was brainless fun. And I do have to get a shout out to the CGI team that did Kong because he was incredibly lifelike. It was really, really well done. You know what I mean? Like if you ever have watched National Geographic, it was about as close to perfect as you can get, which made it more fun to look at. And same thing with Kong. I mean, they got rid of all these extra people that weren't necessary in the last one and kept Kyle Chandler. I'm like, keep him, he's cool. But all this other stuff was like, people want to see this movie for that, the fight, the roars, Godzilla stomping all over the city. Like nobody in the history of cinema said, you know what? I really look at Godzilla or King Kong for the deep acting. I need it This
I
is
don't
what
think they
Academy
followed their
Award
lines. I think that they weren't reading the script. I'm sorry.
Monsters?
Here's
The
like
monsters?
I'm kidding.
Reggie,
They missed their cue?
Reggie, nobody, I'm going to be honest with you. Like when I wrote my review, I said, listen, there is no plot, there's no rhyme, but the action is amazing. And that's what we're coming for. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that this is what we need right now. There's so much heavy stuff going on in the world. So to be able to tune out all the madness for almost 2 hours, and it's also family friendly. It's not so violent that your kids can't see it. And it's not like, I'm not talking like little kids. I'm talking like grade school and up. Definitely can see it. And it's also not vulgar, that type of thing. So, you know, I mean, go to the movies if you're comfortable, or turn on HBO Max and just tune out for a little bit.
I have to be hypocritical right here. Man, this movie looked great on IMAX. Like, you want to see this on the biggest screen. I mean, I got a chance to watch it by myself, so I know that's not fair to the average person probably watching, but you know, I'm double shotted up, and they set up a private joint because I initially saw it on my phone, and it was cool on the phone, so that means it'd be cool on HBO Max, but it is dope.
You got to see it on the big screen.
I mean, I did.
That's what I missed.
Just to appreciate the scale of everything, you have to.
I did, but I said it on my review. I said, listen, my TV ain't the average size. My TV is 73 inches strong. I have surround sound booming because I live with a tech freak. But I also say to people, you know what I mean? If you, like Shawn said, a lot of people are vaccinated. If you want to go with the senior citizens at 11 o'clock because you feel like it'll be less crowded, do what is right. But you will not less enjoy it if you watch it at home. Again, I respect people's right to make the best decisions for their health. And also, we also got to remember, some people are immune compromised, so that other option is not even on the table.
No, I'm feeling you, but I was, in my review, I definitely said that this, I probably would have, it was fine, but I probably would have loved it on the big screen because I could feel the grandioseness of this film. And I think that's where film goers will kind of miss out there because
this is one of those movies you want to see, and you appreciate how, you know, cheap construction builds, you know, you'll appreciate the cheap construction build of the movie theater because the walls would have definitely been rattling and shaking on it.
Yeah, well, good. So I assume this will watch it for you.
Oh, most definitely.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Kathia?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Shawn?
Oh yeah, this the most fun we had like pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic. I mean, I haven't seen anything this fun genuinely fun in a long time. They got this one right. This was fun.
Excellent. So now we have it. So now we're going to move over to our next movie. And Kathia, because this is Philadelphia, I'm going to ask you to talk about this, which you've seen. You saw this like 4 years ago.
I saw it TIFF.
Everybody did, yes.
I saw it TIFF, and then I rewatched it. And I had to talk to some of the people that were in it, like not the actors. I mean, Caleb, yes, and some of the Fletcher Urban Writing Club, which is what this club is based around. So Concrete Cowboy is about a boy who is out here wilding out, and his mother has had enough, so she sends him to live with his father. What, unbeknownst to him, his father is involved. He is a real urban cowboy, not John Travolta, but real urban cowboy. He belongs to this club. And through his association with this club, the son starts maturing a bit, and he starts, he takes a couple left turns, but he learns through this club to be more responsible, to be more caring, and they start bonding as father and son. Idris Elba is the father. Caleb McLaughlin is the son. If you don't know who Caleb is, Stranger Things. But I like this movie. It's nothing intense. There's nothing new here. Two things I really like about it, because number one, they really show the club for what it is. Like, too often when it's something like that, Hollywood start inserting itself, and it also helps that the director is from Philadelphia. He was familiar, and he was through the convict program. So he got a good understanding of who the club is. I also like that they used a lot of the supporting actors from the Shout Out to Method Man who stayed getting a check. I mean, his role really didn't make any sense in this, but I'm not mad at him because he stayed getting a check. I do think Jarrell Jerome was a little bit underused. You know, I mean, I don't know why Hollywood can't find work for this young man, like proper work, because he's so talented. So he's like the one iffy thing for me. But again, this is not anything deep. It's not an award-winning film, but I think it's a good father and son movie, and I like all the extra flavors around it. And most importantly, it shows Strawberry Mansion, which is North Philadelphia. It's not the ghetto, it's working class people, and in a good light. And that's always really important, because too often when they show poor Black people, we're shown like refugees during a war. And I'm being polite by saying that.
So, E-Man,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts?
I mean, I echo a lot of Kathia's sentiments here. Actually, I would say that I think some aspects could be award winning. I mean, for one, I really loved you know, Idris in this. I loved Caleb as well. I thought both of them had some really good delivery in their performances. There were some I like the father-son tension, the emotional moments. I felt that, you know, even though one minor gripe that I had was probably in the directing. Some of the emotional moments felt a little bit too contrived, like they felt a little too forced. And we had like that what is it, like the Fresh Prince, you know, Will Smith father moment kind of in that sense. But outside of that, I love the authenticity. I love the fact that they brought in, you know, some of the actual, you know, people from the Fletcher group or whatnot. And I mean, this is a story that we don't normally see. You know, we don't see Black cowboys, you know, and to me it was kind of like a refreshing breath of fresh, you know, it was a breath of fresh air, because I was like, wait a minute, I've seen movies like this before, but I've never cared about them because they never looked like me. They never told a story that I could resonate with, but this one did. And it felt real. It felt authentic. And I was like, yo, I'm sold. So this whole movie, I loved it. I thought it was great. And had a really good time with it. So yeah, thumbs up.
No, I 100% absolutely love this movie. I disagree. We're the critics. We set the tone. We create the narrative. 100% award winning. Like every bit. I mean, this movie was engaging. This movie was different. You know, you never seen anything like it. I love the aesthetic. The aesthetic's new. I mean, show me a movie that explored this particular subject matter before. It hasn't existed. That alone makes it completely compelling. You can never get enough of a Black father, Black son dynamic, because you just have not seen that on screen. Like, give me more of that. It felt real. It felt authentic. I liked the writing. No, the direction wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough. I mean, this was a solid film that took me on a journey I had never been on before. And that's why I love movies. That's why I watch movies. Take me someplace different, but still can resonate with my perspective and with the way I grew up. It might not be my same neighborhood, but there's some similarities, but they're doing this little unique thing with the horses and the whole urban aesthetic, and it's staying true, I mean, to their cowboyness. I mean, this film is completely Americana on every single solitary level. This thing blew me away, and sadly, it's probably going to end up in the same category as a Miss Juneteenth or His House, because it just doesn't have that cachet.
Yeah.
But that's where we come into play. No,
Right.
Celebrate Concrete Cowboy. My God, the movie was dope.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad. All of you guys basically said a lot of stuff that I thought, and I just want to say something on 2 points. One is that everybody talks about how we haven't seen this before from this angle. And what it does for me is it reclaims a culture, a part of our culture that a lot
It's
of
a corrective. It's a corrective.
That a lot of us don't really know.
Yep.
When you talk about us being jockeys of delivering packages, of training horses, of trying to keep that connection to the animal, I was all in just for that. And then you throw in this piece of father and son, the this movie was about love. And it was love on so many different levels. It was the love between the father and the son. It was the love of a mother to be able to give up her son because she loved him so much that she didn't want to give up on him, so she gave him up. There was the love on the community of saying, we got to raise our own, this whole thing about each one teach one. And you see that in so many aspects, but particularly as he's learning how to clean those stables. Brothers say, yo, but young buck, let me help you. Let me show you.
Takes a village.
That's
Takes a village.
perfect. I love how the dude was like, you need to hit those corners. And
Right.
And the other thing too, I just want to say what Reggie said is I moved to Philadelphia for college in 1988. Prior to that Cowboys with the horses is evident not just in North Philly, it's in West Philly. It is not uncommon. Like if you're not used to it and you come to Philly and you see these cowboys in the whole regalia, as Reggie was saying, riding to the city. And at first you're sitting there, you're going, am I in Lancaster? Like, what is happening, right? But then you understand it is part of the culture. There are stables all over. And I do think that what Reggie said is true. We have not had an American Black cowboy story from the West. Modern day, we don't have anything about Black rodeo riders, none of it, jockeys and none of that. So I hope this opens up the door to give us those stories.
There are Black riders in every urban setting. There are Black riders in Kansas City. There are Black riders in St. Louis. There are Black riders in Cleveland. And I love this. And if this movie were directed by Chloe Zhao or Greta Gerwig, man, critics' heads would be exploding on trying to give this movie every single award ever created in the history of time.
Facts. Yeah.
Wow. So this is a definite watch for me. I want to tell you there was emotions there for me as I'm watching it. So I did care, Emmanuel, about these characters. So
and it's humor, you know. I mean, funny to have a horse inside a house. You're like, you are saying to yourself, where is he sleeping? You know, that is hilarious. You know what I mean?
I mean, I felt it. I mean, I felt it. I felt it from beginning to end. I know I'm going to make it my personal mission to not let this movie get lost.
And also, can we also talk about how it's about time? All these little kids from Stranger Things have gotten a plethora of opportunities, and it's nice to see Caleb up front and center and get this opportunity because he's an integral part of that cast. And I'm tired of him being the +1 Black guy. You know what I mean? He's a talented young man. He's a good young man. And let's give him his flowers while he's here. You know what I mean? Like, let's stop having the Black cast member be the sprout of color, you know?
That's also, one of the,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's one of the main reasons why I wouldn't mind at least the nomination, you know, for him, because this is the first time I've seen him like get out of just that supporting role and actually come through and be like, okay, boom, here are my acting chops. You know, like I can do this too. And I'm sharing the screen with Idris Elba of all people. Exactly. So the fact that you can maintain my attention while a bigger star is right there on screen with you, you're doing something right. So the young man's got some talent.
But let us not forget, we need to celebrate the versatility of Idris Elba.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Idris doesn't get enough credit. He pulled this off. Like, Idris is an incredibly talented actor who doesn't get enough credit.
I'm really glad you said that. He pulled it off. And this is an and, not a but. Those people who were authentic writers and part of that community actually helped him with that because they brought it. I felt those people.
They need to be celebrated the way they celebrated the real life people in Nomadland.
Yes.
People going all goo goo gaga
Same
like
way.
They weren't actors.
Way.
They weren't actors. Oh my God, they weren't actors.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Well, we know what it is.
I am so glad.
I'm trying to be good on Good Friday.
I love this. I love my platform too because I get to talk to y'all about this type of stuff because those people were good.
Yes.
They weren't 100%. They weren't extras. They were really good. And what they brought to it, you talked about it. You said authenticity. Yeah. Oh man, I knew they weren't being phony.
Right.
And
Right.
the last thing I want to say on this is that it'd be disingenuous not to say something about Lorraine Toussaint. I really liked her character. I know she didn't get enough screen time, but I like her and I like her as an actor, and I'm really glad that she was a part of this as well. Go ahead, you
Good
guys.
movie. It's a really, really great movie. Highly recommended.
Yes.
So it's watch it for me, watch it for Sean.
Yes, yes.
Definitely a watch. Must watch. Must
And,
see.
all right.
If you
But
look,
also,
if
it's
you can sit
also-
here and
yeah.
love and glorify Nomadland, you better keep that same energy for this.
Well,
Yeah,
we
it's
know
one of those. It's one of those. Don't forget about movies. You know, most film critics have short-term memory loss.
Yeah.
So
If
Well,
only if it only plays in
it's
December.
So interesting. It's so interesting. So you haven't been here to hear our discussion about the Image Awards as it relates to movies. And if this doesn't show up on the Image Awards, I ain't watching. I'm just
Man.
telling you.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. Let's pray on it. It is Good Friday, as I said before. So maybe, Jesus will intervene and set some things correct over there. Because this definitely is the type of film that should be celebrated at our quote unquote award show. You know what I mean? And so let's pray, since we having reckonings and organization, that there's a little situationship happening over there.
All I'm saying is this. Is that
keep everybody? Our job is to keep everybody
I know
honest.
we can't just
Yeah.
come for the wine and then look at the foolery over here and be like,
Keep people
oh, it's
honest.
Exactly.
nothing.
and all I'm
Exactly.
saying is Concrete Cowboy. Now those are some bad boys,
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yes.
Move.
Yeah.
So you guys wanted to throw some in and talk about them? Did you guys want to talk about
Yeah,
them?
we do.
Kathia, go ahead, bring it on.
I'm so glad that we are getting more horror from people that look like us. Do you know what I mean? Because it is an open, wide range genre. And again, if we can't exist in make believe, where can we exist?
So I want to ask you guys a couple of questions, and
Sure.
Kathia, you can take it first. But I want to ask you guys a couple of questions because my daughter has not seen it, but
Okay.
she's already talking about the criticism about that it celebrates our pain, that it's that it's just like you mentioned this, but it's just like us, and it's like that kind of stuff. So there's so
No.
much criticism out here about this series before people have even seen it. So I'd like Kathia to continue, but I'd like you guys to address
I'm gonna
something
be
else.
Sean for a minute. I'm gonna need
Yeah,
folks
go
to
ahead.
see something before they critique it.
For real.
And so,
For
are we-
I mean, but
are we
that's fair.
For
Yes.
real.
Here's the thing is,
The basics.
this is really where I'm at. When I see stuff like that, I mute the words. I mute like 6 different versions of the words. I saw it at I saw the first 2 episodes at South by Southwest. Not really reading the concept. I was like, all right, let me see it. And I was sitting here and I was like, oh my God, like for real? Like,
Mhm.
right? But here's the thing is, you need to go into the series more. I'm trying not to give away anything, right?
Yeah.
You need
It's
to
hard.
see
It's
more.
hard. It's hard.
You need to see more than what is being presented. And the other thing too is these are things that I feel like this show got really right. The family looks the same top to bottom. The acting is really good from the little kids. Like that little
Oh,
girl
yeah.
is doing it. To like we forget that the other young lady, oh my goodness, the name Shahadi, that's right. There you go. She's not that old. What is she, like 16, 17?
If even.
And she's very believable. She has a lot of intense scenes that, that give you a little bit of anxiety in a good way. And I like how the story is kind of like using racism, symbolism, and all of that, along with, again, I'm trying not to give it away, with aliens and all of that to tell its stories, and again, everybody, especially the Black people, have purpose. They're not just in there to be shaken, and it goes a little bit deeper than that. But at the end of the day, Black people, I love us, but come on now, can we wait till we watch something before you have a deep dive and why it shouldn't work?
Yeah.
Like April 9th is when you guys get to see it, but y'all saw 2 snippets of a trailer and having pontifications like, Ooh, I can't do it.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad that everybody wanted to discuss this before it's actually been released to the general public, because we have to find a way. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I jumped off social media. We got to find a way to curtail some of this. I mean, it's absolutely positively insulting that people jump on stuff and try to deconstruct stuff before they've even watched 5 minutes. Like, it's not, because look, we've sat out here and we've talked on this show week after week after week about how we need more Black creatives, we need more Black stories, we need more people behind in front of the camera. Okay, we're getting the opportunities, but as soon as we get those opportunities, everybody tears it down.
Yep.
Like, everybody, I'm talking about immediately tears it down. This is some brave, bold storytelling that's channeling Black pain in a different sort of way. It's so creative, it's so ingenious, and horror is just a natural platform to discuss the ills of society and the way that America and other countries have eaten us young when it comes to Black and brown people. It's spectacular, but watch the damn thing first.
Yeah, no, 100%. Look, during the Africa Roundtable, which everybody should go check out, one of the things that Little Marvin said, because that was the conception, right? That was the perception that people were having, was like, yo, this looks like us. This looks like Lovecraft Country. And he was like, yeah, that was intentional, but the thing is, once you start watching the show, it's its own thing. It has its own lane. It's not Lovecraft Country. It's not us. Just because it deals with racism and it's coming from a Black creator doesn't mean that it's coming from the same voice. And for this entire series, I mean, like, I gotta say, like, the funny thing is the racism was something that was like, it was part of the story for me, but like there were so many other themes going on.
Other stuff going on.
I mean, it's so many different things. I mean, you have concepts or themes about self-perception. There's a double consciousness thing going on. You have the whole angry Black woman, angry Black man type of thing going on. You have oppression. I mean, the racism is there, and the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about it is, unlike other us, Lovecraft, whatever, they don't tiptoe around the racism. Like, it's almost as if the people are just communicating their thoughts out loud, and it's just plain Jane. It's right there, but it's, to me, I feel as though the way that they handled it in this series is so that, okay, you don't have to guess. You don't have to kind of be like, are they being racist?
That's what makes this this series so daring. It's the intent.
It's incredibly bold and audacious, just how much they will put this out there. And I have to say, I do have to give this one warning though. It is very triggering. There are a lot of things, and I'm not even talking about the racism. The racism is one thing, but there are other things that happen that I personally had to stop the video because I was like, yo, this is too much. This is like, my heart rate was going up.
Can we agree though? Horror is triggering. The Omen, the idea that your child is the devil, if that ain't triggering, Rosemary's Baby, that you could be, you know what I mean? All these things are triggering.
Hold on. I just want to piggyback on
one thing. So here's my thing. I said this yesterday to my colleagues. We as critics, I am learning, and I'm trying to be better about it this year, is we put so much pressure on Black creatives having to be politically correct, having to have all these other things. We do not give them the same freedom as we give their counterparts to be creatively free. If that's what's in your heart to make it. Stop worrying about whether it's going to be politically accepted or not. That's not what an artist does. An artist doesn't do or create worrying about, is the public going to love me or like me, if you are coming from a sincere place. And we need to stop putting the pressure on Black creatives or having to be the Black representatives, the Martin Luther Kings and all of that, because that's not fair. If we're really talking about equality, that means allowing them to create whatever's in their heart. And yes, sometimes it's going to fail, but give them the grace and the opportunity to make what is in their heart to make.
Well, that's because the art of film criticism's lost. There are a lot of people who need to go back to class.
That part. But I just wanted to say, I'm a horror movie fan. I've watched many horror movies. I mean, graphic violence, scary stuff, jump scares, like it's like spicy food. You can't eat too much of it, but you keep coming back, But this,
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, but like this, I'm just saying this is like straight up jalapeno peppers straight. And the violence, I don't want to get into the other stuff that they do. I'm just saying there are certain things I don't know the average person needs to see in their mind. That's all.
Yeah,
and I'm just forewarning you, episode 5. Just, oh my gosh.
I was going to say myself is that it is triggering. And I think that the difference though between just regular horror stuff is that regular horror stuff can be fantastical. This is real. We're taking real pain and saying it's horror. And I love the fact that we're doing that because it's saying this is how horrific these things have been in our lives. However, some of it is like, oh, snap. Really? I recognize that dude. I recognize that situation. And right now, with some of the stuff I'm going through, I can't watch episode 5 today. I'm gonna have to come back,
right?
Take a little break and watch episode 5 a little later. So I do think that you guys have said everything about it. It is bold, it's audacious, it's groundbreaking because it is not like the other things. It is in the genre of the other things, but it's not like the other things. I think that Lovecraft did their thing and it was like, whoa. And they're doing their thing and it's like, whoa. But I think they're two different things. And I don't even see the comparison after watching both of those shows. To me,
and they can exist, and they both can equally exist in the same space and have their own various audience or have mutual audiences. This one or the other thing has got to stop. It's like we constantly say we don't want to be the only Black people in the room, and then when there's an opportunity to have teammates, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to have these type of teammates.
Well, yeah, I've been saying that about Shawn for some time. We're gonna move on. And we're gonna skip this section about TV because we got some other things to talk about. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that Yaphet Kotto passed away, and obviously on our show we always like to give the flowers, the due to people. And Shawn, I'm letting you start this one because the way you shaking your head is like, I got something to say. Go ahead.
Man, I love your platform, Reggie. We need to start a segment called The Criminally Underrated. Because, I mean, there's so many criminally underrated people that never got their respect or their dues while they were alive. And this is one dude. Like, this dude's been doing it because you got to remember, I think we take a lot of things for granted because I think things seem more easy. But when someone of this stature passes, you got to remember, he was at the top of his game where he was the only one walking on the set. He was the only one walking into the agency. He was the only one out there. And he didn't have the support of inclusion efforts and hashtags. And, these were lone soldiers, man. He was a villain in the James Bond movie in the early 70s. I mean, what was that like?
Play 2 roles, though.
And play 2 roles. Like, he was on episodic TV before people even knew the term episodic television. Like, he's a true pioneer. His story should have been captured and documented because he went through some stuff and he saw some stuff and he had to endure some stuff. This is way before we even were really caring about mental health issues and all these other things. How hard could it have been to establish a career the way he did? In order for him to excel, he's damn near a superhero.
Kathia.
Lieutenant Al Girardelli, my favorite police show. I always tell people, y'all give so much credit to The Wire, but The Wire wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for Homicide, Life on the Street. NBC, 10 o'clock Fridays, that was my show. Everybody talks about Frank Templeton, and you should, because it's one of the bookend roles for a Black man, just for police detective. But Frank could only do what he could do because Al supported him, and their exchanges between these two characters, to have two Black men speak that freely in a police station was revolutionary. I always say this, it is amazing how in 2021, we have less dialogue, less type of conversation and scenery like that than we had in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s, and in the 10s. That show was, we had, and we're like 5 Black people had real roles on that show. And he was the leader of that squad. He was dealing with people that are racist, people that have conspiracy theories. What's it, Billy what's his face? Baldwin played the alcoholic that just couldn't get himself together. So he kept that whole entire squad together. And only an actor as great as Yaphet Kotto could play this role. Do you know what I mean? And what I also liked about his career, he never played someone beneath him. By that, I mean, all his roles were strong Black men. And that says, like Shawn said, it was during a time where there weren't a plethora of roles for Black men. You know what I mean? So for him to be able to navigate and put together a career with all these types of iconic roles and not necessarily play the stereotypical Black dude shows to his strength. And I agree with Shawn that, you know, we dropped the ball. Somebody should have had that one-on-one interview to talk about all these different things and how he had a successful movie career and TV career.
Yeah, go ahead, E.
Look, I'm echoing everything y'all said. I mean, you know, I'm a little bit younger, so like I didn't have the opportunity to see like his full breadth of work. I think Homicide was when, you know, like I was at grandma's house, you know, and like it was on, and I was like, hey, like it was one of those unconscious things where like you just see that strong Black presence, but at that young age, you don't realize how effective it is until later when you reflect back. And, you know, just to Kathia's point about just the fact that he always played that strong role, that role that wasn't compromised in any way. You know, now that I'm just thinking back on it, I'm like, yeah, he really was that, like, he had that presence. He had that, you know, on screen, just power in a sense. So yeah, when I heard about the passing, it was like, it was tough, you know, but you know, he had a great career that should have been celebrated more.
This is interesting to me because he was my guy, but I didn't know he was my guy.
Right.
What I mean by that is that you would never have me walking down the street saying, "Hey, did you see Yaphet Kotto? Did you?"
That's true.
Right.
That was never like inside my head, but he was my guy. I mean, he was must watch TV, must watch movie. He was. When he was on Hawaii 5-0, I was like, I gotta see that. If he was doing it, I was watching it, but there was something in me that wasn't saying like, hey, do you know who this guy is? And I think that might be for a lot of people not thinking like, do you know who this guy is?
I didn't even know his name growing up. I didn't know he was dope. I didn't know his name growing up.
I could recognize him all day.
Yeah, I can recognize. I didn't know who he was until I became a professor. I didn't know his name growing up at all.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we got a moment to
mention. He was in Aliens, the first one.
He's in the first one.
And he was, you know, again,
Parker.
He's part of that, you know, that lexicon, you know what I mean, of being in an iconic movies. And again, like as soon as I heard that he passed, and not to make fun of it, I just heard like in my head him going, Frank, you know what I mean? Because he had that unique type of voice, you know what I mean? And but also very commanding, you know, like you said, is he never, one thing I think about Yaphet Kotto is he took up good space on the screen. Like when he walked in the room, there was a presence. He announced himself, which is hard to do again when people don't always want to give you grace and that type of respect.
Yeah, well, great. Well, rest in heaven, Yaphet Kotto. All right. Last week we tried to get into this a little bit, but we were all over the place because we were trying to get it all in. And this is that issue, Shawn, that you brought up about writers saying that they were not creative during the pandemic. And you were like, what? Really? Seriously? How could you not be creative during the pandemic? Well, I'll set this one up, is that on the one hand, it makes sense given all the death and stress that all that stress and stuff could impact people. But then it doesn't make sense on the other hand, because you're like, man, I got so much time. I've been wanting time to just write the things that I want to write. It's in my head. Now I have no things to stop me from doing it. But a lot of people were not creative during this time. Shawn, thoughts?
Well, I think I figured it out because we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. So I kind of sat with it. And it's like, I kind of understand that from a human level, but I always like to put a business spin on everything. I think it's a ploy to set up the next WGA negotiations. I think the writers are trying to prove that, hey, we have more value than you guys are appreciating. And so I know the next contract terms are coming up. So I think it's a business play to get more money.
You mean like the last writer strike?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because TV sucked when that strike happened.
Yeah, no.
Killed the wire.
TV. That's why we have all this reality TV, because it's non-scripted. You know what I mean? The television networks were like,
but
okay.
The reality TV feels more scripted than the scripted stuff nowadays.
But,
they renegotiated that. They renegotiated the reality TV thing.
So, I mean, I think it depends, like Spike, I was talking to Spike and Spike said he's been doing a lot of writing. Do you know what I mean? What I don't want out of this is 15 COVID movies, like just to be talking about just playing on a trauma. Do you know what I mean? Just to cash in on it. Let me be.
I feel like we're going to get a lot of Trump movies.
But I will say though, as a professional writer, when I worked at a newspaper, when you were like isolated in the cube, it was hard. It would be days where I would just go drive in the car or walk down the street or hang in the park or go to the barbershop or go to the community center and just walk on the streets, bump into people and have conversations. And that sort of sparked some creativity. So I get it from that standpoint, because writing can become very isolating really quickly. So I understand if you have the world to explore, sometimes it creates a situation where ideas pop into your head just because you're experiencing life. So I get that part.
That's true. That's true.
No, definitely. I mean, I will say to people, as someone that does write almost every day, there are days where I was sitting here and I had the headline and it was not happening. It was just not happening. You know what I mean? It was like, ooh. And, what I've learned to do is just, all of us that write is that you can't force it, because it's going to be a real piece of caca. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so what you just have to figure out, it's exactly what Shawn does. Maybe you have to go watch some mindless television, take the dog for a walk, cook some food. Do anything to get yourself out of that pressure that you have to produce content, you know what I mean? And then there are moments though, and also you have to figure out, I am a better writer later at night. This time in the morning is not my favorite time to write, Right. I like the quiet and all of that type of thing. So, again, we all are struggling and trying to make sense, and it's also hard when you've had friends die, friends get sick. I mean, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I'm gonna write about a movie and how great it is when you just went to a virtual funeral.
Yeah, and that's why I do think it does make some sense about that creativity. I'm really glad that you guys talked about some of the stuff you have to do to get out of that rut, because sometimes not being with people means that you're not living, so you're not actually adding to that lived experience, which actually helps that creativity flow and actually grow. So really interesting with that. There's this other topic that I want to move to. I know what WTF means, but I don't know what NTF means. So can somebody tell me what NTF means?
Yo, it's cryptocurrency.
Basically.
It's cryptocurrency for art. Trevor Hawkins, the guy who wrote and directed La Aduana, that's my partner. He's from Kansas City. It's the first movie to be purchased with NTF funds. It's been very interesting working with him. I'm learning a lot, working side by side with him. But jump on board this quickly. It's going to move fast.
But explain, Shawn, how this actually works for somebody. How because somebody made 2 million, somebody made 36 million.
I'm trying to think. It's hard. I don't have a grasp to break it down, but it's basically, God, It works the same as Bitcoin, but except it's for artistic property.
Let me try and help.
Yeah.
A little, maybe.
Yeah, I know.
We might have to tag team on this.
Yeah,
but from what I understand,
it's complicated.
Yeah, like if I make this piece of art, obviously you could copy it, you could, do whatever you want to do, you could scan it, whatever. But if I sit here and say like, no, this is a one of a kind, whatever, I put like a digital signature on it. Yeah. So that way, even if other people have the copies, if you buy this from me for whatever amount you think it's worth, you can say I got the original, so in my mind, that's like the best I've tried to like grapple in terms of understanding this.
That does make a lot of sense.
But the way that it helps though is because it's like a digital signature.
Right.
The creator of said piece of art retains the rights 100%. So it's basically a better play for the artist in terms of retaining long-term rights.
It's like having the masters.
Yeah. So if you own that, if you own the digital signature, say Lotawana the film, Trevor owns the digital signature. So now if a Lionsgate or Warner Brothers or Netflix or Amazon Prime want to distribute the film, then they get the rights to do that, but Trevor owns the original signature, so they have to pay him as if, like E just said, he owned the masters.
Right.
And what's real? I was kidding that I didn't understand it. It's what's really. I was kidding a little bit, but
I know. But I'm in the middle of it and still have a hard.
I understood it to the extent that E just explained that, and you, and that you get to control your own art. And the problem with that is, and we talk about money on this show all the time. The problem with that is that is going to butt up against some of these studios. Is that some of these artists and some of the studios are having some issues as to how does
they
that work?
They don't know how to navigate. There's a couple of issues, and I always like to be out front on certain subjects. The studio play and not knowing how to, they're like us stuttering, trying to explain. Studios don't. So I mean, no, it's really complicated.
Yeah. It's very new. It's very new.
It's new. And let's keep it real. No one's really figured out how this translates to actually cash dollars going into your bank account yet. That structure is still kind of like loosey goosey in the world. But another thing though, and this is the problem where Black people always fail, we need to jump on board of this early, even if we don't understand, because it's going to create a new form of this cryptocurrency is quickly creating a new financial segregation.
Yep.
Like cryptocurrency is going to be the new redlining.
Yeah.
So we got to jump on board.
The only thing I will say this, I'll put my financial advisor hat on. My problem when it comes to these things is the people that are doing the teaching are not the people who have the background to do the teaching. So what they end up doing is running these scams, saying, come aboard, look, and then they show their phone, look, I'm making millions and millions of dollars. And you end up having people throwing their life savings into things that don't have the freedom to lose $1,000 or $2,000. So my thing is, I'm always for Black people being financially literal, definitely expanding their portfolio, but we got to be a little bit better about vetting the people that are claiming to be the experts. Do you know what I mean? I'm always like, it's real easy to check people's credentials. The internet is not just for TikTok and BS. Use it, find out if there are complaints against people, ask them. If people are legit, they have no problem showing their real credentials. And we have too much, especially with stimulus checks, tax refund checks, people telling, give me your check and all of that. So again, do it, but be careful who you're jumping into business with.
Yeah.
But like she said, all you got to do is go to the internet and check. I hope IndieWire is listening.
Yeah.
No, but like that, that's a really good point. For me, it's really self-education, right? Like, and don't make it feel overwhelming where you got to learn everything all at once. Take your time, learn a little bit,
take your time on
learn a little bit until you get one piece. Once you get that one piece, move on to the next piece and move on to the next piece. And then once you learn, the basics to your understanding, that's how you can peep out the scammers that Kathia is talking about. That's how you can realize like, nah, I'm straight. I got this,
It's
so.
it's still
Yeah,
tricky.
yeah,
It's
the
still
crypto
tricky.
stuff
It's
is
still
really,
tricky.
really,
It's
really
tricky.
tricky. But we're getting kind of down to the end, and I want to touch base on three things as it relates to the Oscars. So the first one is that Netflix has 35,
Mm.
35 Oscar nominations, and all other studios combined are 70. The nearest competitor is Amazon at 12. Does it matter? Does it say anything? Does it mean anything?
I mean, I think this is the best chance that Netflix has to winning Best Picture. I'm not mad at Netflix because Netflix wants to win that Best Picture trophy to kind of like say we are no longer the new kids, the inferior kids, and again, this is they spend the money. That's why they're in the contention. They hire the people who know how to do the freaking advertising to get the attention. The reason why some of Amazon, there's no listen, Amazon is in the rears because they don't know how to compete in this realm. Not because they don't have the money, they don't know how to compete. And again, I'm not mad at Netflix because Netflix goes for the gondola. Now, do I think that Chicago should be the best picture? No, but I do think they're the favorite, and Netflix is doing whatever they can to make sure they get finally across that finish line.
Well, well, real quick, because I know we're out of time. They got a huge assist from the pandemic. You got to remember, the 7 major studios combined pushed a lot of their titles off the 2020 calendar. So it's only natural that they would have a lion's share of the nominations this year. I think if there weren't a pandemic and the 7 major studios released the movies they intended to release, it'd be a little more balanced.
No, 100%. That was it. I mean, this was the year for streaming. Streaming took the forefront, but of course, Netflix already had the lead in streaming at that point. So, this is like the perfect storm for them. But even beyond that, like Kathia said, they made a solid investment because even back when Steven Spielberg and all these other people were criticizing them for even just being compatible, for nominations and awards and stuff, Netflix was like, okay, we see you, we coming, so they put the money up, and they usually spend more than they make a lot of times. But I think it is one of those things where it's like, hey, if we win an award or a couple of awards, that's going to attract more people because we can say, hey, look, we're Oscar nominated, we're Oscar award winning, this is the place we pay. And then you get better talent, you get more directors, and so on and so forth.
Their best shot was Roma. They're not winning Best Picture this year.
That was close.
My next thing is that there are 5 returning Oscar winners this year. And it seems like sometimes the Oscars like to recycle some of the same people. Does this matter? Is it just kind of like a blip? Because there's only 5 of them. You got Viola Davis, Frances McDormand, Olivia Colman, Gary Oldman, and Anthony Hopkins. Does it matter? Does it not matter?
This is like In the Sky is Blue.
Right.
There's certain people that get nominated, Kate Winslet, Nicole Kidman. I mean, they could blow smoke and they will get nominated. And that's the lazy part about the situation. Do you know what I mean? I have no problem saying, Gary Oldman, you do not belong in this top 5. There should be a white man, Anthony Hopkins. That's it. You are in there by default.
You could go through each category on that.
You know what I mean?
Best director.
And also, I'm like, I have a feeling they're going to give it to Glenn. And it's a shame because this should not be the role that she should win. But again, Oscar voters are lazy. They like to go with people that they know instead of really doing the research and nominating the best, especially in the acting categories. It's
like Delroy.
Embarrassing.
Well, moving on to my last one, there are 11 first-time acting nominees, and 7 of those 11 are people of color. You got Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Andra Day, Leslie Odom Jr., Lakeith Stanfield, Stephen Yeun, and I hope I can pronounce her name, Young Jung. So does it matter? Is this them making up? Is this just a blip? because I think, let me tell you what I think. I think it's just a blip. I think because of the pandemic, some movies, just like we were talking about with Netflix, some movies were able to shine that just wouldn't have been able to have that kind of shine before. And so I think it's a blip. I'm happy that these people are getting their just due, but I think it's a blip. Kathia.
The only way this will matter if there's consistency. That's the only way. I will never take away from any person of color that got nominated, because I know they have to walk over glass, broken glass with bare feet in order to get their foot in the door. Steven deserves it. Rez deserves it. And I don't want to butcher the lady's name who's been in this business for over 30 freaking years, finally getting her flowers. But again, if we are not consistent in recognizing the best, regardless of their background, then again, this is just, cut and paste, we putting up a black triangle.
Shawn, I'm gonna give E last word. Shawn.
No, it's good. Well, let's see if they win. I mean, it all depends on. It starts from the very beginning, though. You have to get the stories written, and you got to get greenlit and financed, and enough money to market. It's a long journey from conception to nomination and win. So we had quite a few last year, so you got quite a few noms. Like this year ain't looking so hot. If you look down what's coming in April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, you ain't gonna have that this time next year.
E, you got the last word on this.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm more aligned with what Kathia was saying. I don't care until I see consistency. This is something like Oscar So White is not the first time it's been a thing. It's been a thing more than twice, I want to say, if not 3 times. So there's always like this, we call them out. Then all of a sudden, it's a blow up.
My problem with Oscar So White is you can't penalize the Academy if some years they don't have anything to work with. See, we're penalizing the Academy when we should be penalizing the studios and the streamers who greenlight the projects. So
I'm going to throw someone else in here. The various guilds, because out of the guilds, the nomination comes. So we have not delved into this, and I've been saying it, I will keep on saying, the DGA, since we're talking about house cleaning, needs a house cleaning. We have never had a Black director win. It's been 19 years since Halle Berry won. What is going on? Let's get back to the DGA. The Steven Spielbergs, all these type of directors will circle around the white woman every freaking time when a white woman makes a movie. Yeah. Last year or 2 years ago, it was Greta. They throw all the Black women, all the women of color.
Because Promising Young Woman's good, but that girl didn't deserve no Best Director nomination.
But I'm just saying, the point is, we come for all these other organizations, and no one has ever said, hey, Steven, why have you never championed a director of color or a woman of color? It's time we hold these people's feet to the fire. It's the same thing. You can't have Black people. What is it? The hairdresser, for the first time, we have a Black hairdresser nominated. Okay, let's look at the guild. Why has it taken over 30, 40 years? But nobody ever wants to ask that question, because God forbid we start telling the freaking truth.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, Oscar So White's problematic because the people who created it didn't have a full understanding of how things work.
I mean, both of y'all are right. Right? Because think about the award system in itself. It's a huge circle jerk within the industry, So yes, the studios have some blame because they're not greenlighting, people of color in the first place.
Some then blame, yes, all the blame.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's a blame in the industry for me, but like, if we're specifically talking about the Academy, my biggest problem has been just the makeup of it. My problem is the fact that it's been heavily distributed to older white men for years. And even when they came out and they put a sister, to like head the Academy and everything, even when they were like, we're going to double our numbers, and people of color, it was like, from 3% to 6%? Like, what does that mean? Because the problem ends up happening, you have these older white men that have their preferences set. I mean, I'll never get over the fact that these people literally were like, I just didn't feel like watching Get Out. Like, what? Yeah, like the fact that they don't even want to look at certain movies that don't appeal or resonate with them is, I mean, I guess that's human nature, because as Black folks, we're going to resonate with Black creatives and stuff.
Yeah,
but at the same time, we need more diversity. We just need more people on that voting block so that more films, more creators can be represented in a much more balanced way. So yeah, consistency needs to happen. I'll believe it when I see it for multiple years and not just 1 year where everybody is hyped up after a police shooting or, George Floyd, or, everybody gets woke momentarily. I want to see this for the long term.
So
you can't, but that's not fair. But that's not a fair.
As a Grammy voter, if you are not consistent in your membership, you lose your membership. And that one needs to happen. And the Grammys are far from perfect. But if I am not actively involved, I lose my right to vote. And that's how it should be with the Oscars. If you don't, we all know, publicists know when we watch a film, they will immediately call us and say, oh, I know that you've watched it. It needs to be the same thing. If you're not watching all the nominations, thanks for stopping. Your membership is on pause and you have to reapply, but people don't want to do that because that would definitely clean house a lot of these old dudes,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shawn. You get the last, and I get the last word.
Because I got to get out. But no, we got to remember though, that George Floyd and all the stuff that happened this summer had nothing to do with the films that came out this year. Those movies were all greenlit and started like years before that happened. It's just, sometimes it's just about timing.
Yeah. So my only thing, Shawn, is that I understand where you're coming from in terms of not putting all the blame on the Academy, but I do have a problem with the Academy. And the problem that I have with the Academy is
I didn't say I don't have a problem, but you can't put all the.
Thank you. I just want to say that I have a problem with the Academy. If you're not watching the movies, then those movies can't make it in there. And when we talk about a movie like a Miss Juneteenth, and it gets nothing. When we talk about a movie like 40-year-old version, and it gets nothing. When we talk about these kind of movies, there is something inherent on the Academy side that they got to fix. Because if you're not watching these movies and you're saying to yourself, we just got through talking about Concrete Cowboy and saying, okay, the same way you're treating Nomadland, you should be treating Concrete Cowboy. And we can be sure that the Academy will not be looking at this movie that way. So for me, is that everything you guys are saying works, but I think everybody gets the blame. I get the last word, you guys, because that's the show. I'm Reggie Fonda, the Real Critic. This is the Real Critic Roundtable, where Black critics come to have fun. No, we come to discuss, debate, and then have a little fun. And I'm glad to have Shawn in the house. I'm glad to have E-Man in the house, and also glad to have Kathia in the house. We'll see you guys next time.
Fight the power.